Hello, everybody, and welcome to our session here today on global semiconductors. I have here Fred Schindler from IEEE and myself, and we'll be talking today about all things IEEE and as they relate to the semiconductor industry. So the format today is that we will be both doing presentations. Fred will start off with a presentation, and then I'll do a second presentation, and then we will open it up for Q&A. So let me go to the next slide here. And I'm so glad that you're here today. If you have any problems with like the audio or you're not able to see the videos, there is technical support. So look down on the tabs there and you'll see the big yellow question mark, and go ahead and click on that. And we have people available who will be able to support you if you have any technical issues in seeing us today. Now, the second one is the most important part, and that is questions for me and Fred. So if you go to the red question area, there's a red box, which is the Q&A window, and I want you to ask us questions. Now, you can put questions in there anytime, and we will be seeing them, and we'll make sure at the end of the session, Fred and I will be able to answer any questions. And lastly, if you would like a certificate of participation, there is a purple icon here, and that will be available so that you can request your certificate of participation. In addition, this event will be recorded and it will be available shortly after we finish. And I hope that if you enjoy the content that we're providing, that you might invite others to come see it as well. So welcome to IEEE Education Week. And to get us started with this great discussion here, I am so honored to have Fred Schindler. And his background is working in RF, microwave, and millimeter wave within semiconductors. And he is currently the Vice President of the Technical Activities Board within IEEE. Fred, it is such an honor to have you here, and look forward to your presentation on semiconductors in IEEE. Fred?
Okay, great. Thanks, Kathy, and thanks for that nice introduction. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. As Kathy mentioned, I'm the VP for Technical Activities, and so I'm going to try to explain how to navigate technical activities and what we do and how we might fit into your professional life. So let's start with a view of the IEEE organization. So IEEE, under the Board of Directors, has 6 major boards. There's the Member and Geographic Activities Board, so your sections and your chapters are there. We have Technical Activities, so in tab we have all of our societies and councils. I'll describe those. We also have our Publication Services and Products Board, Educational Activities Board. Here we are in Education Week, so it's an important board to note today. And then we have Standards Association, so where all our standards come from. And then, of course, IEEE USA. So I'm here to talk to you about technical activities in particular, and the societies and councils and various activities that we have in technical activities. But I'm going to start by navigating through MGA and just figure out, I'll use myself as an example, how do I fit into MGA? MGA, you can start by looking at a map. So here's a map of the 10 regions in MGA. I reside in the Boston area, so I am clearly in Region 1. You may have heard that we're reorganizing the regions a bit, so Region 1 and 2 are merging, and Region 10 will be splitting into 2 pieces. So I will soon be in Region 2, but I will still be in the Boston area. Okay, so I'm in Region 1 right now. So let's take a look at Region 1. Here's Region 1 with all the different sections. And once again, we can take a look at where I fit in that map. And I'm just outside of Boston in Newton, Massachusetts. So I am in the Boston section. So looking at a couple maps, we can quickly figure out where I fit into MGA. Okay, so let's try to do the same thing with technical activities. And so it helps to start this process by thinking about, okay, what is it that I do technically? So I've been involved in our semiconductors, as Kathy mentioned. And, we've been working on front-end modules for smartphones. So here is a recent iPhone. If you can pop it open in the back, you'll see, the large dark gray thing is the battery. Then tucked in the corner, you can see a circuit board circled in red. There's actually a stack of two boards. If you look at the surface of one of those boards on the right side, surrounded with a yellowish border, those are front-end modules. And so that's what I have been working on. And so the front-end modules here contain power amplifiers, which is kind of my technical heritage, but also a lot of switches, CMOS controllers, and acoustic filters, bulk acoustic wave and surface acoustic wave filters. And so that's what makes these modules. That's our product. That's what we sell. So a lot of different technologies involved in that. Okay, so let's start with that and figure out how I fit into technical activities. So we have 47 societies and technical councils within technical activities, and they're in alphabetical order here, going across the page. And for decades, I've been a member of MTT, Microwave Theory and Technology Society. I joined very early on in my career. I was doing a lot of kind of classical microwave engineering, and then migrated into gallium arsenide, solid state, et cetera. So this is kind of my home community, but I belong to a bunch of different societies now, and I've belonged to various societies at different times. And if you really want to take a look at the work that I have most recently been doing, and the different societies that intersect with that, what you'll find is that lots and lots of them do. Smartphones are communications devices, so the protocols and standards for communications and modulation techniques that those fit. So communications society would make a lot of sense. Electronic packaging society, we've got all these different components we put in this module. So real packaging challenge. So obviously you could work with that. And then we have to worry about how they interact. So the electromagnetic compatibility society. A ton of signal processing that, I'm not necessarily doing signal processing, but we can't design our amplifiers without understanding how they interact with the signal processing. So that's critical to what I do. There's a power supply a tracking power supply that controls the voltage going to our power amplifiers to make sure we minimize power consumption. So power electronics are important. I mentioned the filters that we do. Bulk acoustic wave and surface acoustic waves. So we have a society that covers ultrasonics. Let's see. I missed whichever one popped up next. That's why. All right. Solid state circuits. We have a lot of CMOS in there. I see a question flying about fabless. I think I'll kind of get to that indirectly as I go through the rest of my presentation. Electron Device Society has a lot to do with the gallium arsenide that we use in our power amplifiers. There is a ton of electronic design automation involved in this work. There's no way we could make these products without relying heavily on being able to design, lay out, simulate what we're attempting to productize. We need to measure everything. We have a significant engineering lab to make sure that we're characterizing everything properly. The smartphone is the highest volume consumer technology product that we've ever developed. So Consumer Technology Society. These things have to be reliable. Our customers aren't going to buy parts that have any kind of a significant failure rate. So Reliability Society. Obviously, these things are going between all the other hardware and the antenna. So interactions with the antenna are important. So Antenna and Propagation Society. Just the logistics involved in making this makes us think of this Systems and Cybernetic Society. The things we're making are little subsystems, and they fit into a bigger system, and so we have a systems council. The implications of this device that we've developed, this smartphone, we've all seen it. It's profound across society. So we have a social implications of technology society. This is an engineering management challenge. I've worked as an engineering manager for most of my career. We have an engineering management society. And then, finally, we got to communicate with the rest of the world what this device is that we've developed to our customers, et cetera. Spec sheets, presentations, other kinds of communication. We have a professional communication society. So that really tells you, for what I do at a quick glance, the different societies that intersect with what I do. But if we want to take a look at semiconductors in general, well, you can populate the entire spectrum. I'm sorry, my animation didn't work quite right here, but you end up there we go. We end up intersecting with all the different societies and councils within IEEE, and some of these are heavily involved in how you fabricate semiconductors, Electron Device Society. It being a prime example, but a lot of them are just interested in how you design them. So if you're in fabless, for example, MTT, if you're doing RF stuff, solid state circuits fits in a lot of ways, circuits and systems. There's lots of different places depending on the kind of fabless semiconductors you're developing. And there are obviously a ton of different ways to use, to design, to make semiconductors, and when you consider all of them, they're pervasive across our societies and councils. So sorry that we're missing that message in this box here. Okay, so how do you find your place in technical activities? Well, you can start by just looking at the names of the various societies and councils, and it gives you a pretty good idea of what they're doing. And then, if you want to dig a little bit deeper for each, each of them has its field of interest. And once again, I apologize for this message being lost on this platform, but I think it's in there, but it's white on white. So if you Google field of interest of any of these societies, you will find a 2 or 3 sentence description of what their technical domains are. Okay, and then of course technical activities has more than just its societies and councils. We have those societies and councils, but we also have a bunch of programs. So entrepreneurship, for example, we support the interaction between entrepreneurs and venture capitalists all around the world. We're trying to encourage activities, especially in places where there's a greater need. We have a tech ethics program that kind of looks at the ethical implications of our technologies and the ethics in how we develop our technologies. We have a climate change program that the IEEE has a corporate climate change program, and the technical activities climate change program intersects and is kind of a subset of that. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion program. We coordinate with various affinity groups. So we have young professionals, women in engineering. We'll find a women in engineering organization in pretty much every society. So the Power and Energy Society has women in power. The Control Systems Society has women in control. The Microwave Theory and Technology Society has women in microwaves. So we really want to make sure we have a home for all the professionals across the entire technical spectrum. And then, of course, we have future directions and initiatives. And part of that, we do road mapping, including our semiconductor roadmaps. And then we've got a bunch of other resources and platforms. So resource centers for most of our societies and councils that will hold a lot of webinars and conference content, et cetera. Dataport is a platform where large amounts of data can be deposited for sharing with other researchers, et cetera. A little bit more on future directions. We're showing the status last year and this year. So what we try to do is identify new emerging areas, especially cross-disciplinary ones, and make sure that we have a place for those communities to convene, and that they have a future we have a future for that community. So, for example, if you look at quantum, once again, I apologize that we lost some of the text here, but quantum has actually moved into a technical committee of the Computer Society, so that's got a long-term home. And if you look on the right side, if you look at what we're doing in 2024, where you see we're adding some new areas. One of the things that we've created is an AI coalition. So, that's a place for us to take a look at all the different AI activities across our various societies and councils, and make sure that they have a place to kind of meet and make sure that we're capturing all the richness of what's going on in AI right now. Okay, so let's get back to the organization. So you can see that member and geographic activities and technical activities that kind of meet at the bottom. So we have these chapters that are member and geographic organizations. Administratively, they belong to sections, so they're technically geographic organizations, but they're supported by the various societies and councils. And I think the key thing we want to make sure is in each technical and geographic area, where they meet, let's make sure that we've got a community to support them. And that often means let's build a joint chapter. So just looking at my society, MPT, we've got lots of joint chapters with Electron Device Society, joint chapters with Antenna Propagation Society, with Solid State Circuits Society. So let's figure out what community you have where you are, and what industries we need to support, and let's make sure we've got chapters to support those. So I think you've kind of captured that it's a complex organization, but that also means we've got something for everybody. We've got a lot of technical diversity. We have a community for almost everyone. We strive to have a community for everyone. We have our 47 societies and councils. We have technical communities. We have our initiatives. We have a lot of dedicated volunteers and very rich traditions. Some of our societies are getting to their 75th anniversary this year. Some actually did last year. So you build a lot of traditions and establish a great culture over that long time period. A lot of great technical content in our journals and our magazines and our conferences. We have webinars. We send out distinguished lecturers to speak to local groups and chapters, etc. And finally, if there isn't a community that suits your needs, well, let's figure out how to create one. We can do that by creating a new technical community. We can do that through Future Directions initiatives. Probably the best place to start. And we can certainly do it within societies and councils if it's something that neatly fits within one. So let's make sure that we've got a home for you within technical activities. All right, and so that takes care of my piece. I think we're going to hand it off to Kathy and then maybe take questions at the end. All right?
Thank you, Fred. And you can clearly see that those in the semiconductors field, there is a lot in technical activities and like you said, something for everyone. So thank you so much for that presentation. And yes, I'll just do a quick couple slides to build on that, and then we'll take questions right after. And I see some great questions in the Q&A, and we will be answering those. But as a reminder, please do post in the questions, and we will get to those shortly. So thank you, Fred. And I'll just do a couple slides here. And again, continuing on that theme, for those of you who are in the semiconductor industry, IEEE has a lot of value. And from technical content, Fred has shown there's so many rich areas. And semiconductors is, it's a very complex, very wide industry, from everything from the design to the manufacture test. And so you do need a lot of societies and a lot of areas in order to cover the vast amount of technology that is in that area. So let me go to the next slide here. And let's talk again about how IEEE relates to the semiconductor. They are celebrating 140 years, and they are one of the largest nonprofits supporting technology through humanity. And semiconductors, yes, this is a place where you can find a lot of information and technical activities related to semiconductors. So first, I want to just talk a little bit about semiconductors today. And having been in this industry, as Fred has been in the industry for so long, you can see that there are starting to be changes in this industry that that are unprecedented, that we have not seen the dynamic and rapidly evolving ecosystems for semiconductors. And there's many things that are driving this. Now, within semiconductors, we've been looking at AI for several years, AI techniques, but lately we've seen AI techniques not only being developed, but put into production almost every phase of semiconductors. There's also a lot of government and industry investments from all over the world, and that is fueling a lot of industry hubs and technology programs that is helping to move semiconductors a little bit faster than I've ever seen it go. There's also a market demands, the things that we're developing. There is definitely a big market for the things in many different verticals. I was just at UCSD yesterday, and I was talking to some people about using some of the traditional semiconductor techniques, but applying them even more into other verticals in health and other areas. That was just exciting to see how these same technologies are just growing into other verticals. So you can see there's a lot going on. And in order to meet that and to understand and keep ahead, there's many things that we need to do and many ways that semiconductors, IEEE might be able to help. So let me show you a little bit about the conferences. And I'm trying to do this here from the perspective of the way that I've seen IEEE, which kind of melts really well with the way that Fred introduced IEEE. And one of the ways that I first got introduced to IEEE was through conferences. The one on the top left here, a Design Automation Conference, was the one that I first attended. And for that one, it was a perfect fit for what I was doing at that time. The Design Automation Conference with IEEE and ACM together, they were building a program that was good for people that were in EDA industry, the people designing, and that one I found a lot of lectures and things that were relevant to what I was doing. So one way you can also get interested and become involved with IEEE is looking at the many conferences that we have. And with Fred mentioned many of the societies, and many of them have associated major conferences, and that might be an intersection of seeing the conferences and then also seeing the associated societies with them, because that might be a good way to see. And these are some of those that I picked out that I've seen and either attended. I mean, it's actually also interesting to attend a conference that may be not exactly in your vertical, and you start to learn about it in a different perspective. So I've attended others. ICCAD is also about EDA software, but it's a little bit more on the academic side. And the IEDM was great because it covered some of the topics on the design, but it also covered those in the fab. So by taking different perspectives, you get to learn even more about this industry, which I think is always good to help building your tech base on that. Also, for some of the things that I've been involved in as well, going to the top right is standards. Accelerate is also a nonprofit organization that's also a feeder to IEEE SA in terms of the EDA space. So some of the things that you're seeing in verification and also seeing, hardware description languages, many of those started out as Accelerate standards and then went into IEEE standards. So if you're interested in standards, we are going to need even more as more and more fabs are being produced, and throughout the whole supply chain, there's more standards that are needed. So this is going to be a very vibrant area. So if you are interested in that, please find out more. IEEE SA has a website, and they always encourage, it's the diversity of people that are in these groups that actually makes them successful. So please take a look at that. IEEE is known for its documentation. We've got a lot of Explorer databases and ways to find our documents. So in semiconductors, there's a plethora of data for that as well. On the bottom right here, this is from Educational Activities, who is a sponsor for our presentation today. They are just doing so much for semiconductors today. One thing that I might have you look at is their Try Engineering site. And even if you go to Try Engineering and Semiconductors, you'll see a lot of good material already about the design life cycle of semiconductors. They've got tours of fabs, and is a great way for those that are getting into the semiconductor industry. And also, I know that they're developing even further content, helping us find fields within semiconductors. And also, if you're interested in changing your vertical within semiconductors, this is a good way to get to know other areas of semiconductors. Like if you're working in front end and you want to get into the fab, or you want to know yield, they are working on some things to try to map those different skill sets so that you can find your area and find resources to help you in that search. So check out in educational activities and Try Engineering. And in the top, there's so many ways that you can work on your career. There's a lot of job boards and webinars. And I chose this one from IEEE USA because they have a series on professional development. This particular one that I put together was for those that weren't necessarily in the semiconductor industry, but with all these things going on in semiconductors, I wanted people to understand at a high level what does semiconductors mean, how to get involved, and some of the things that are going on. But also in terms of professional development, they also have things on storytelling, which I think is one of the most important parts of communication within this industry. Being able to communicate what you've done is an important piece. In fact, when I'm on industry councils, often they said, what is the number one skill that we want engineers to have? And that's the ability to communicate well. So check out a lot of the professional development as well. It's really key and important to success in these areas. And then also, IEEE is a very global organization, and we'll be talking a little bit later about the other initiatives going around the world with IEEE. However, I do want to recognize the IEEE USA. They just recently had a congressional visit day. And the reason why it's important is what they were talking about is directly related to the semiconductor industry. In fact, in IEEE USA, if you go to their site and on their YouTube channel, they actually have, I believe it's every other week, an update, a webinar update on those things that are going on that you might be related to things that are going on, initiatives from the federal level about what's going on in semiconductors, science, and technology. So it's a really good way to keep up to date with the things that are going on that are affecting and impacting the way that we are doing things within semiconductors. And they also had last fall, we had in San Diego Designing Chips with Chips, where we brought together industry, academia, and government to all talk about the initiatives that are going on, try to make some sense of all the many initiatives and how we can all work together and collaborate to really make sure that these initiatives are working together between a lot of different agencies. And these affect us. And it affects us in exciting ways, in the sense that we're getting people together to talk about new technology hubs, new materials, new programs. And it's just, if you haven't gotten the idea, it's an exciting time to be in semiconductors, and there's a wealth of information here all throughout. And I think that's what I'm trying to say, is that before I started in IEEE, I had a job doing things, creating software designs in the EDA space. But the more that I worked with IEEE, I saw that there was even more that we could be involved in. We could see the directions, we could see the trends, we can see a lot of other things that when I went to the conference the next year, I understood why we were seeing. Maybe there were some initiatives that were sponsoring additional activity in a certain area. And the next year when I went to the conference, I saw, oh, I'm hearing a lot more papers in that area. I'm seeing a lot of new companies, new entrepreneurs, new vendors. And part of that is fueled by some of the things that I've learned in other areas of IEEE. So putting it all together, it now helps you to make a little bit more of sense of the things that are going on around you, and helping you to understand the semiconductor industry at a whole new level. And for that, there's a lot of opportunity within IEEE to help make that and understand that. So one of the programs that IEEE has is called IEEE Your Competitive Edge. And I think in semiconductors, that's important, because there's so much going on. Even today, I am taking classes in another vertical to try to make sure that I'm keeping my skills current. And I think that's important for someone in the semiconductor industry, is to making sure you are aware of the many things that are in the industry and also what you're interested in. And putting those together, the passion that you have for technology and finding your place within the semiconductor industry, then you too will have that competitive edge. I think Fred has already mentioned this. I know that some people were asking questions about, if I'm in the semiconductor fabless, where should I start? I think a lot of the things that Fred talked about, and would help with there. But we have a lot of people that are discussing this and different ways of representing that. And if you want to offline, we can talk to you about it. If you're fabless, we have charts and things that explain, you should first look at these, but then again, we have to find out what you're interested in. So it's not as easy as a matrix, but it is a place where we might start. So we can talk separately about that, but we do have an organization called Global Semiconductors. It is an ad hoc and technical activities under Fred. And what it's trying to do is aggregate a lot of the information of what is going on. So watch Global Semiconductors. In fact, it's called semiconductors.ieee.org. So check out that website. And what we're trying to do there is aggregate a lot of the news, education opportunities, and be a portal for you to kind of navigate through IEEE. So I put that here that the different, if you're at the top here, with EDA and getting the IP and the design, this is all the fabless area. And then getting the materials and the wafer fab, that would be definitely in the fab, assembly and test, post-silicon, and then R&D goes across all the way. This is Division 1, which Fred had on his charts as well. And in Division 1, almost every one of those relates to some aspect of it. And I was putting here that some of the primary ones that you might want to look at in EDA, Computer Society, and this is only the top of the chart, so you don't see the whole thing. But CETA is definitely for EDA, great organization. CAS is good, SSCS, and then also Computer Society, because many things that we do are related to just everything that the Computer Society does. So check out the Global Semiconductor, semiconductors.org. That's kind of where we're trying to aggregate and trying to help you with some of those questions that we have. I just want to also do a shout out that there's an AI organization that goes across all the different verticals. It is a Future Directions Committee and their initiative, and they are doing amazing jobs of putting a lot of this information together across IEEE. I talked about educational activities. They are doing their amazing programs, but they also have a special focus on workforce development as it relates to semiconductors. And so that is, if you're looking for, the workforce development needs in semiconductors right now, they're doing some very special things, and we can connect you with them to show what's coming up future. Standards, we talked a little bit about it. The standards is good throughout the entire workflow. And I saw some recent news about smaller jobs and consultants. There's also consultants networks where people work together to try to help navigate and working with them in that area with entrepreneurs. And so that's also things that might cross all of them. For everything else, when you're the different verticals, if you're front end, back end verification in this sort of area, that's something that I might be able to help with, is just trying to help you with finding those, but also using the techniques that Fred mentioned. That might be one of the best ways to do it there. So that is it. I hope that through the things that Fred and I talked about, it's a rich field, a lot of different areas. And if you don't mind now, Fred, I see that we've got a lot of questions. Maybe we can start taking some of those questions. Does that sound good?
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. So I think the first one that I saw going through is what is IEEE doing outside the United States related to semiconductors? And IEEE is a global organization, and we are doing quite a bit with globally. Fred, do you have some? And then I can follow up with what the semiconductors.org is doing as well.
Yeah, we have all these societies and councils and things going on and technical activities. None of them is focused on a specific geography. We are global in everything that we do in technical activities, and that's true for all of IEEE except for IEEE USA. And even it does some stuff that reaches beyond the borders of the U.S. So, there are there's the U.S. CHIPS Act. There are other similar activities around the world, and our goal is to support all of them.
Well, thank you, Fred, and that's true. We are truly IEEE, one of the very nice things is it is a global organization. And I think you showed the regions at the very beginning, and wherever you are around the world, you are in a region. So IEEE is very global. About specific initiatives, yes, IEEE USA is very familiar with, and they had very impactful for the U.S. CHIPS Act. And many of the things that they do are open to anyone in IEEE, like professional development, understanding some of the CHIPS Acts and some of the things that might be helpful and useful to other areas as well. Within the semiconductors.org initiative, what we're trying, it's a ad hoc under future directions for global semiconductors. We are trying to get together some of the global initiatives, and some of those are on that website. We're very aware, and we're trying to bring attention so that those who are in the regions know what's going on in their areas. We just recently had one of our committee members attend a Region 10 in Asia, and they went to Penang in Region 10, and they had some great discussions on MSIA, which is the Malaysian SIA group, and we're having them post on the blog post on what's going on over there. We have very active members that are in Europe. The IEEE also has, which was on Fred's slide, a lot of roadmaps. Those IEEE roadmaps are used by many countries to help them define and get their way as they are working on the semiconductor initiative. So check out the site, ask us any questions, but yes, we're very global, and be happy to answer any other additional questions about that. Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of questions, Fred. This is good. All right, let's pick another one here. I work for a fabless semiconductor company, which IEEE societies would be most applicable for what we do. And I think you mentioned that, Fred, but maybe you can put a little bit more content on that.
Yeah, it really kind of depends on what type of fabless semiconductors you're designing. Nominally, a place where you see a lot of semiconductors presented is the Solid State Circuits Symposium. ISSCC. So, Solid State Circuit Society is probably a good place to start if you're more interested in system-oriented stuff, circuits and systems. If you're more interested in RF stuff, MTT might make some sense. It really kind of depends on the specialty. But I would start with Solid State Circuit Society.
That's a good choice. Definitely a good choice there. And I work at a fabless as well, and I've always been working at fabless. And DAC is another good one, Design Automation Conference. And like I said, just if there's one that's actually in your area, it might be good just to check it out. And you can often see their papers or their schedules and programs and kind of figure out what your area is. In fabless, a lot of times it's for front end, back end. I don't want to say too much about some of these conferences, but they do cover a lot of that area. So yeah, start with DAC, or those put on by Solid State are really good for front end. Okay, let's go to where can I find information about IEEE conferences related to semiconductors? I might take that as an action item, Fred. I think on the semiconductors.org, maybe what we can do is highlight some of those related to semiconductors every month. I think that would, or actually we would want to do it a couple months in ahead. But we can work with your teams on which ones to highlight. But I think we could do that. How many, over 1,300 events a year? Is that what IEEE does?
We have more than 1,300. We have 2,000 events a year.
Okay.
And there is an IEEE conference search capability.
Yes.
And it does let you look geographically and in a time frame, so you can see what's coming up close to you. Sorting on semiconductor topics might be a little challenging, just because there's so many different terms that we use to describe what we're doing in semis. So I think Kathy's idea to take an action to try to find and highlight them is an important one. But I think DAC, which you mentioned, CAS runs a bunch of conferences. Solid State Circuits, ISSCC is great. IEDM, International Microwave Symposium, just a few off the top of my head.
Okay. And someone was asking which resource. I'm hoping one of the admins, can you type semiconductors.ieee.org in the chat. I think somebody was asking where we can find information. So when I refer to the Semiconductor site, it's semiconductors.ieee.org. Even if someone can put that in the chat, I'd appreciate that. Okay. I will also mention, through all this, we're mentioning a lot of what IEEE does, but I also encourage you, I think on the last slide, to become, if you're interested in becoming a member, that is the difference between just attending a conference, but also getting engaged. And once you are a member of IEEE, and if you want to look at the leadership positions, you can also be involved in reviewing papers or setting up panels. And that is, to me, has been some of the most impactful things. I've been able to put together panels of some of the leaders in some technological area, and that is something that IEEE members do. So like when I say taking it from a job to a career, it's also taking it from just someone who attends a conference to someone who is actually impactful in the content that's being provided at some of these events. And also, it's often, if you're a volunteer, you often can get permission to attend sections of the conference as well. So there's a lot of benefits to being part of it. I don't want to go too much in that, but if you are a member of IEEE, there's quite a bit you can do there.
Yeah, and just to jump on that, Kathy mentioned this, but the value in being a member is in being an engaged member. When you start participating in stuff, that's where you really, not only helping the community, but you're helping your career.
Yeah. And I can say that, and you probably have your highlights as well, Fred, one time that I was getting a milestone together and I got to do a one-on-one interview. I'll just say it was with Dr. Viterbi, and it was one of the best interviews of my career. And there are moments like that, I think we both have just a list of, when we got to meet or see, and I know I got goosebumps just talking about that. And I'm sure, Fred, you have that as well.
Yeah, I invited him to give a plenary talk. This is probably 12 years ago now, but it was a thrill for him to join us and to introduce him.
Yeah, very good. This is a good question. Is there an IEEE semiconductor field newsletter or publication? Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, there's once again, you got a few of them. I happen to be a member of Solid State Circuit Society, so I get their magazine, which is really good. It kind of covers a pretty broad cross section of kind of analog design and digital design techniques. Really, if you're thinking about doing design work, especially in CMOS, that's a great place to start. The Microwave magazine actually does a pretty nice job covering the RF stuff. I suspect that the Circuits and Systems magazine is similarly very strong.
Yeah, and this is a good idea, though. I like where the question is going, because there is quite a lot going on in so many different areas. It would be quite a lengthy one, but we might, through semiconductors.ieee.org, by the ad hoc committee there, have a summary. But again, it's hard because there's so many. It's such a, are you interested in verification? Are you interested in fab? But maybe we might have some newsletters. Please look at the societies that Fred just mentioned, because that'll hone in on what you're interested in. But maybe if we have additional staff or members, we can do high level what's going on in semiconductors, the world in semiconductors this week. That might be an interesting one. So good question and good comment. We have another question here, is how to engage as a volunteer or program committee member at these conferences. Fred, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, it's actually pretty easy. You go to the conference website and you see who's on the steering committee, and there's always a way to contact them, and you say, hey, I'd really like to help out with, and whatever it is. Or you can say, I'd just like to help out. We're always looking for good volunteers. So that if you don't know anybody that's involved in the committee, just go ahead and do that. And of course, if you know somebody that's involved, just start by chatting with them to understand where the greatest needs are and where you can contribute.
And one of the other ways that you can do it is definitely look at the conference search and see where the conferences are,
Right.
so you know where they are.
Right.
And then once you've identified the conference, kind of look at their website, say, yeah, that's one I'm really interested in. In fact, that's one of the things I first did at IEEE is I found a conference that it's like, I'm going to that, right? And also, as Fred had the picture of the regions, and everywhere in the regions, there's probably also a section that you're in. And so, for example, I'm in San Diego, and there's a San Diego section. And so in San Diego, you can go to the San Diego IEEE section, and there is a section chair, and you might just drop them a note. It's like, and they might be able to help do some of the networking as well. Or if you see the website and you see the volunteers list, reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interested in volunteering. And you might that might be a good way to start as well. Does that seem okay, Fred, to just reach out to the conference volunteers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All very good. And I think all the sections, your local sections are always interested in helping. And especially if you want to spend time getting the conference together, sometimes they just need volunteers on site to work the registration booth. And when you're there, take that opportunity, start networking. And I did that with one of my first jobs. Is I got a job at an area that I was really interested in and spent the whole day talking to the engineers about what they did. So yeah, please, please reach out to the volunteers and just start to get that more networking that you do it once you've identified the conference. Sounds good. We have another question here, Fred. If I'm thinking about going into the semiconductor industry after I graduate, what can IEEE do to help me get a job and advance in my career?
Well, the good news is there are lots of jobs available, and we do often with our conferences have a forum that might be helpful. It really depends on the conference, but we will often have a job forums associated with some of our bigger conferences. We don't have really a formal job search capability. Frankly, every job that I've gotten in my life has kind of come out of networking. Even the very first job that I got straight out of college came out of an acquaintance's network. So I would say build your network and build your network through IEEE volunteering. I mean, if you're a student right now and you have a student branch chapters, you get involved in that. Leverage that into getting involved in a conference in a technical area. Get to know those people. Those people will share their networks with you, and then you'll find out where there's some great opportunities. I've worked as a hiring manager for the bulk of my career, and the best employees come from the other side of that equation. The best employees come through networks, not necessarily my network, but if one of my employees has someone they can recommend, that's much preferable than putting an ad out there or asking a headhunter who they can find for you. So I would say if you're still in college, start building your network. It's never too late. And I'm sure your college university has a placement office, and that's always helpful too. But take an internship. Meet people there, get involved in activities, meet people there. That's how you really find a good job.
Thank you, Fred. And I'll add just a little bit more onto that. You're thinking about going to the semiconductor industry when you graduate. So there's a couple things within IEEE. We have a lot of conferences just for those people that are graduating or young professionals. I am in Region 6, and we have a Rising Stars conference every year in Las Vegas, right around January. I don't even know what day it is, in January, and it's right before CES. In fact, if you go to Rising Stars and IEEE search for that, the website's already up. And that's where those that are just, coming out of school or young professionals or some in school as well. And then you get to start to learn, and you can interact with people in IEEE and start to understand, the things that are in IEEE. And I do know that they are looking at some things related to semiconductors in those in that conference, and I'll be there as well, so you can meet me in person if you'd like. So check out some of those that we do have. We've HKN is if you're in school right now, please. I hope you know about HKN, especially if you're going to graduate soon. Please make sure you've reached out to HKN with an IEEE. And that will also help you understand how IEEE, and we also support our students as they graduate as well. And there's also student branches. If wherever you're at now, please look at the IEEE student branch that might be near you. So you can get involved with IEEE now, but please take it forward with your career, because I hope that we've shown you that within the industry, active members, that there's so much we can do. So what can it do to help me get a job? IEEE also understands that one of the important things with all the advancements in semiconductors is that we also have, we need to support both industries and students in workforce development, and people in the career as well. And there are programs, especially out of educational activities. Remember I said try engineering, educational activities. They are trying to work together to find out what are the many jobs, new jobs that are coming up, what skills and talents are needed at each one of these levels. And so they are actively working to try to make sure that they bridge that gap between the new jobs that are being needed, the skills that you need, and being able to search on current jobs in that area. So please please be watching this space. Semiconductors.org, we will be linking to it as soon as educational activities, defines more of that and has it ready for us. I hope that answered the question. It's a little long-winded there, but there's a lot of things that we can do, and hopefully those are some.
There's a question of what HKN, and that's Eta Kappa Nu, but you just Google IEEE HKN. It's the honor society that has chapters at many college engineering schools, colleges, and universities around the world. And so if you have a local chapter, then that's something you can look into. And of course, once you've become a working engineer, there are also opportunities to join HKN after the fact. So I am an HKN member, but I've only been one for a couple of years now.
And I'm HKN as well. And I do recommend HKN as the honor society of IEEE. And like Ed said, Fred said, just Google HKN. I wish I had more links for you. Maybe afterwards we can post a lot of these links here. But HKN is a great organization. It's the honor society for students. Okay, let me see if we've answered them all. I think I have one. Any advice on career transitioning from non-traditional emerging technology to semiconductor domain? What's a non-traditional emerging technology? Fred, do you know the?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds like you're kind of in one technology space and you want to move into a different one that maybe has more promise. I'd go back to a conference once again. For example, a lot of our bigger conferences that are in the semi space will have workshops and short courses and boot camps that kind of give you the background you need to launch a change in your career into that space and get involved in that community. It's the same kind of thing as getting any job. It's learning enough to get the first one and then proving yourself. So I would start by looking for a conference that's local to you and what opportunities there are there just to learn more, to make sure it's something that you would actually like to be involved in, and then you can get some training that way. And I'm sure we've got a lot of resources on the Semiconductor website that we've already posted to help direct you.
Agreed. And if you have the time, the energy, the enthusiasm, Semiconductor thrives when we have a diverse work group, period. And so
Yes, right.
the people that I work with, I have people that were managers of department stores. They were doing the database for a large retail chain, and those who have the traditional EECS degrees as well. It is that diversity that we bring to the table. It's the frame of reference that we do that makes us so successful. You know, wherever you're coming from, you know, we've mentioned several ways to get in it. Of course, all the universities have a lot of different programs. We're starting to get more community colleges having semiconductor-related things, and of course, webinars and things like that. Yeah, and all the IEEE conferences. So my advice on transition it, if you're interested in it, if you have a passion for it, please do. I think there's a space in semiconductors for you. In my career, I have moved from, I've been in the semiconductor space for a long time, but I've moved from, I did front end stuff, I did back end stuff, I did yield, so once you're in that, if you're interested, there's certainly a lot of room to find where, what might be interested, what you might be interested in. It's a big field. It's a big field. It's kind of, sometimes when we say semiconductors, it's almost as if we're in math. You know, it's a huge area and we're just talking very high level, but there's a lot of different places underneath that.
Yep. Okay.
Here's one on AI models. It says AI models are utilized for various applications. When will the EDS community start an AI-related journal?
That's a really good question. I mean, yeah, maybe we pass that on to the AI coalition. You know, there's certainly AI being used in EDA, so we don't have a good forum for that.
Right. It's definitely throughout all the semiconductor workflow.
Yep.
But as we saw in that chart, we do have a future directions group that's specifically for AI, and they work across many of the different verticals and the societies. Yes, we will definitely pass that on. There's a meeting coming up next month. We can talk to them beforehand, but definitely I can ask them when I see them face to face as well. That's a good suggestion. Definitely a blossoming area. So.
Yep.
All right, I think we have reached all of our questions and we're almost at the top of the hour. Any closing remarks, Fred, for those that are wanting to get into IEEE with semiconductors?
Yeah, I mean, I think we gave you a lot of ideas, and you know, if there's still questions you have, by all means, reach out. Kathy, very conveniently here, gave you her email address. Mine is my first name is Manfred, so it's m.schindler@IEEE.org. But just look for me on LinkedIn, Fred Schindler. You know, look for me on LinkedIn and get in touch with me there, and you know, I'll be happy to follow up with you then.
Well, thank you, Fred. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm Kathy Hayashi, and there's my email address as well. And I think that I've been in the semiconductor industry for a very long time, and I just cannot tell you. People say that I lighten up when I talk about it because it's been a wonderful career. And if it's something that you're interested in, I hope that you find all the resources through IEEE that make it a fantastic career for you as well. And then you get to meet fantastic people like Fred. Thank you. Thank you, Fred, for being.
And likewise, and you know, I have to say, same thing. It's been a great career. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Fred, for being here today, and for all of you. I hope that you find a lot of resources within IEEE with semiconductors, and all the best in whatever you do. Take care, everybody, and thank you for watching.
Thanks.